these businesses, because we believe that while technology is interesting and enabling, at the end of the day, what really matters is how do people change the way they behave, and how do they get to do things they couldn't do previously, and that's really going to be the change that happens both globally in the economy, politically, socially, and here for this panel here for entertainment. We have a great panel. It's truly international. We have Paris. We have, I think, Berlin, we have Switzerland and San Francisco, and I'm in Vermont. That technical haven.
Awesome.
In the middle of the mountains. And I hope everyone is making it well through the COVID crisis, and I hope that we all look forward to when we can do these events again in person.
Sure.
So to kick off, what I'd like to do is have everyone just for 1 minute or less, you introduce yourself and talk about just what your platform is, and then we're going to move into your vision and why you started to work on blockchain, and why you're doing what you do every day. So Fernando, you want to start?
Yes, hello everyone. This is Fernando from CureInvest. We make it possible for you to get exposure to real world assets, starting with collectible rare cars. So imagine soon you can get a digital asset that represents essentially that gives you exposure to a Ferrari or any other collectible. Here in the background, you see a beautiful pipeline that is coming to our platform. And the concept pretty much extends, to any other collectible out there that previously the wealthy used in order to diversify the portfolio. So very exciting to join. Thank you very much, James, for the space, and I look forward to learn more about other projects today.
My pleasure, Brian.
Thanks, James, and thanks for having us on, James. We are a technology company focused on blockchain non-custodial solutions for trading digital assets. So our assets in the entertainment business, in effect, will be future income streams of NFL athletes, of soccer players, soccer teams, and so on. Real fan engagement, K-pop, anything really with a fan engagement bias that we can allow blockchain to allow people to onboard truthfully and maintain blockchain for certain things such as order books and so on, to allow people to participate with their favorite athlete and trade shares in effect in their future income stream, and gamify that in a securities way, in a secure way and truthful way, to make sure that everybody is trading properly. We've been in the blockchain space for many years. I'm a bit of a blockchain nerd myself, along with James, and so I'd really look forward to this panel with James and the guys.
Sebastien, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Sebastien Bourget. I'm the CEO and co-founder of The Sandbox. The Sandbox is a virtual world, a gaming virtual world on the Ethereum blockchain, where players and creators can create, make assets, games, and then monetize them, trade them, earn, govern through the use of non-fungible token, as well as Sand, our main utility token. I'm also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance, which is a non-profit organization regrouping over 150 companies in the space, gaming companies, blockchain gaming, legal, investors, PR, media, chains and protocol, developer solution, all working together to promote the adoption of NFTs and decentralization in gaming industry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sebastien, and welcome. And Ray?
Hey, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Ray. I'm the vice president of Verboonen Inc. That's a public mobile gaming company in Japan. I'm also the general partner of Gumi Crypto Capital. That's a venture capital fund investing in blockchain and crypto in general. We've been investing in blockchain. I've been investing in blockchain and crypto since 2017. Until now, this fund itself already invested in over 25 companies, projects already. Very excited about the blockchain technology being utilized in different industries. And, obviously we do have a gaming background too. The parent company, Gumi, is a public gaming company. So we're pretty exciting how this blockchain technology can, and cryptos can bring into the gaming industry. So yeah, happy to join this panel.
Fantastic. I have a dog barking. I apologize for that. So let's talk about, why blockchain. People talk about blockchain as if it's, something that matters to the ultimate user. And I'm actually, questioning that recently. So what is it about the ability to do things through apps that's changed that actually is going to matter to the everyday person, and then we'll talk about later, to the investor. Why don't you start, Sebastien?
Well, essentially, we're in the gaming world. Like, we have main actors like Minecraft, Roblox. They are all fantastic platform where hundreds of millions of players are there creating content. But the truth is, like, all this content, nothing belongs to them. Those are acting as centralized walled garden where anything you create, you cannot actually take out of the platform, monetize, trade, exchange with other users. All your virtual belongings are not yours. So with Sandbox, because this is an IP we've been working with, a game IP we've been working for more than 8 years now. We've seen before with the previous version on mobile, like the previous games were on iOS and Android, we had over 40 million players. And we were confronted to that issue that we had players making amazing content, spending hours or days to create all that stuff. And we had literally no ways to reward them and let them monetize. So when toward the end of 2017, when we saw NFT appears with CryptoKitties, we found like, wow, NFT and user-generated content, bringing them all together, it was really meaningful and impactful. Not only you own digital game assets from a game, but you own your creation, the thing that you spend time. It has not only a value, potentially aesthetically, utility, or scarcity, but sentimental value because it's been made by yourself, and allowing you to, well, own your creation and use them in a game maker platform that's no code to create games in our metaverse that's interoperable. It's really a major game changer and a major disruption. And over the year, we've had amazing metrics through, well, the success of our land pre-sales, the adoption on the number of members in our community, creators, players, landowner, the launch of our Sand token as well, which shows that we're on the right way to build a part of the metaverse and change through blockchain the ownership of game assets.
Right. So it's interesting. Just to make sure I'm not sure how sophisticated the audience is in terms of blockchain. One of the interesting concepts we're going to be talking about here and throughout the panels are going to be how real life is starting to mimic games, and how you're going to start to have actual ownership of the items that you're creating, that you're historically you've had things on your screen and it was another world where you played with things, but inside of one game you would invest money and develop assets and capabilities, and then you'd go to another game and you have to start from zero where you'd lose your whole investment. And one of the things that's happening with a blockchain enables is a more granular understanding of ownership and who actually owns the pieces that you create, and are they tradable inside the game or outside the game. And so how does that impact, Fernando, talk about what CurioVest and what you're trying to do, and how this idea of owning your own data, owning your own content, how does that change?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see historically people investing time building their collection on digital car racing games, maybe even tuning these assets, and pretty much investing some of their savings on distinguishing their collection from other folks. So blockchain is changing this from scratch. Now these assets represented by digital tokens can actually represent a real world asset. And just as Sebastien was sharing, I mean, once you own this digital token, you genuinely own the provenance that comes along with it. So imagine in the future that you acquire a token linked to a real car and tune it maybe in the digital world, you would then be able to capture the value that comes from you tuning it and differentiating it and trading it later on in a decentralized market in which you can at some point actually profit from this. So what I see is really a transfer in value from a very centric platform that was pretty much capturing all this value creation from all these users towards a user-centric value, in which the person behind creating these or modifying these assets, even if it's on the game, actually gets to own the value behind it.
And Brian, you come from the securities trading world and creating of marketplaces, and now you're in the world of these NFTs and of these digital assets and creating liquidity. Talk to us about the journey that you've gone through and how you see the ability of turning entertainment into creating of a new asset class and a way to actually participate in the values you create.
Yeah, and we touch on it as well, James, there, representing what Fernando and Sebastien mentioned, is that really what we're talking about is non-custodial. We want to try and break the link between having some centralized resource controlling everything that we're managing, whether it's a game, whether it's trading in securities, whether it's my assets. Today, if I trade a NASDAQ security, it's not my security, actually. It's actually held by the DTC. It's all very technical. On our side, on the gaming side and entertainment side, when you're watching an NFL football game and your star player scores an amazing touchdown, you can actually come onto a platform like ours and buy a share in the future income stream of your favorite player, or a share in the future income stream of your favorite music band. So on the entertainment side, we're bringing blockchain non-custodial assets onto people's phones. Effectively, our smartphone is our wallet, and we basically maintain that whole platform for the consumer using a blockchain. So for us, it's really all about the non-custodial benefits of having something so decentralized and so under my control that I can benefit from it. Inside the game, I've made the tuning, as Fernando mentioned, it's mine. Well, how do I prove that? Well, because I've done it on a blockchain, which is immutable, and I have my private key, and I can prove that I did that. So if I ever needed to. So the whole concept in securities, tokenization of assets, tokenization of games, creating virtual ecosystems like Sebastian's world, all of those things are really come about ownership and value. I've created my value, and maybe somebody else values my value. And as Fernando also mentioned, maybe I can profit from that by putting my effort into areas where I invest in the best footballers, the best basketball players, the best soccer teams, and so on. And really, blockchain gives us something that we've really never had before in the trading world. I mean, we speak with regulators, James, as you well know, and they sit back and think, gosh, okay, they hadn't realized that it was such a difficult space for ordinary citizens, for anyone here listening to the call, to try and invest $125. Try it. It's really not that easy. There's an awful lot of hoops and hurdles to go through, and what do you own in the end, and how does your bank work? This is something that blockchain really, really brings to the fore. And in entertainment and gaming, you're buying into your favorite players, favorite musicians, favorite games, favorite virtual teams, and so on. So that's how I see the blockchain world, James, in this context.
Really, thank you, Brian. And Ray, so you're sitting there in the investor's seat, right?
Yep.
And we won't talk about how the blockchain world's trying to get rid of the VC. We'll talk about that later.
Yep.
But how do you see all of this coming together? Like, you're sitting in a seat where everyone's pitching you, trying to get some money to do the next thing, right? So
Yep.
Right now, what's the state of the art? What's coming on your desk that's interesting, that's cool, and how does it pull together these different aspects that the other panelists are talking about?
Yeah. So, from my point of view, I think the blockchain and crypto has actually enabled a different economic model. In the past, probably I will mainly focus on the game side, but the thing is, originally the economy is decided by the publisher, and the gamers are playing it, and that's the single role they have. But right now, because the blockchain game actually, just like Sebastien just explained, people actually become a player plus a creator inside of the game, and they can play different roles in the same games. And because you mentioned, the blockchains enable people to actually define ownership of the assets, but the reason they want to define the ownership is because they want to trade it. They want to transfer, exchange with the different other persons. So I think now the game, even inside the game, become an open economy that is not under controlled by a single party, and you never know what's going to happen inside of it. So there's more flexibilities inside of it. And but another thing, so talk about the pitches that we saw a lot of in the gaming, blockchain gaming side. I think one of the challenges right now is everybody is trying to think about the the creator side. I create value instead of it. I do this for this. I do this for this. But nobody is talking about the experience. So user originally people treating game as an entertainment, right? People enjoy the experience. They would like spend money instead of it. People want to, the reason people want to buy a weapon, buy a character. Yes, some of them want to treat it as a collateral, a collectible. But a lot of them actually just, in order to enjoy the game, I have to have this. I have to have this. Then I think right now, a majority of the current blockchain games are missing this part. So what kind of experiences that we can provide it to the users, and they can starting to enjoy the ownership, all these additional benefit actually is on top of that experience. And the reason, one thing I feel very exciting is the NFT meets DeFi, which saying, when you have your assets, right? This is assets that you own, you can starting to use it as collateral, you can lend it, you can borrow it, you can, generate yield on top of it. This is another new concept coming out. Seems very exciting. So we will dig more into it. So yeah.
So Sebastien, I see you nodding.
Yes, yeah, well, I'm totally agreeing here. Like the experience, the fun. Like, why do players come back into those games? Like, don't forget, like they are games first. So, and there's a lot of competition outside of blockchain gaming in console, in mobile, in all sort of devices. So you have to provide a great user experience, a fun and engaging gameplay that makes people want to come back the next day and keep engaging before they start even benefiting from the technology itself. Like, yes, I can earn and monetize and participate in play to earn eventually, and other incentives.
So the reason I got into blockchain 5 years ago was because I'm a science fiction nut. I read, Neil Stephenson, who was talking about 30, 40 years ago, was talking about how the world was going to evolve to a virtual place that was connected by this omnipresent bandwidth, which the internet didn't exist yet back then. And we would have avatars, and those avatars would essentially enable you have a second life, as they named the first virtual platform, Second Life. Where we'd actually do more than play games. We would experience things which would become bigger than a game or trading. It would actually be a specific and new part of your daily routine, of your daily existence. So, Sebastien, just to come back to you for a second, if you look at who else is on the stage here with you, how could you see their activities being incorporated into a world like Sandbox? And then let's talk to them about how they think they could manipulate. And let's create a new game and a new experience here on the site together, while we're all together, and we'll get ready to invest in it.
All right. So, well, I think like fast forwarding the vision you described, within the next 5 to 10 years, we are all going to spend more time in virtual world, gaming virtual world. And we'll be doing not just Zoom conference on one side or game, we'll be working, we'll be learning, we'll be socializing, we'll be interacting, we'll be playing game, we'll be earning our revenue maybe there. And on all that, like, we need the technology behind that support this economy, the trade, the transaction, the trade of good, and all the possibilities that we can build in terms of monies, Legos, DeFi, etc. And within Sandbox, people will not, or other decentralized metaverses, because I believe there will be plenty of them for various agencies, will be able to own shares, fractionalized shares of cars or other type of assets, and maybe we'll be able to use those to actually visualize a car in one game, and through the interoperability of those tokens, experience all sorts of things that are really new and that developers can leverage to reach out to the users. Like, oh, you own this share of this car, or you own this football player or sport player. Why don't you come to my game and I offer you a special experience inspired by it? Or plenty of things to be explored in this space here.
And couldn't I design a car on Curio Invest inside of Sandbox at my own dealership inside your world, and then use Horizon to build an exchange for me internally where I could start to own fractional interest of the virtual car? right? I mean,
we're seeing it, like we're seeing voxel architect, voxel car designer who are coming from the automotive industry and creating with those digital assets that can be used across games. And then we can use a lot of services like DEX, fractionalized ownership, etc., to start trading shares of those. And you could indeed be a platform servicing to the users who have this specific interest and offer them much more value than just the tokenized asset itself. So that's part of the whole experience behind.
Fernando, what do you have to say? I see you nodding.
No, I mean, I just listened to Sebastien, and yeah, he's definitely right. I mean, we see asset tokenization as the enabler. I don't want to go into the tech part, but basically, once you have the digital asset in place, this is only the beginning of new experiences that you could unlock. And such as the example of enabling services in video games, and really unlocking membership only sort of experiences that enable you to live the game in a very different way. So definitely there's an ocean blue filled with opportunities out there.
So I think what we're talking about is, historically you made an investment in a stock or a bond and you couldn't touch it, and some other guy had to hold it for you, and all these rules and regulations were attached, and you really were divorced physically and mentally and psychologically from that. And now all of a sudden we can create these assets, or I can participate in my aspirational assets, whether it's a sports team or it's a Ferrari, right? And I could start to find ways to actually get more than just monetary remuneration, monetary joy out of that asset. So Brian, talk about Sports Fan Exchange and the things that you're doing, and how you see you're going to be able to be a conduit for people to start to enjoy these assets more.
Yeah, from our point of view, it's really about the tokenization and the secondary trading, the facility for people to be able to move their assets around on a blockchain for value. Right. So to the example of Fernando, for instance, somebody might take a fractional ownership in a Ferrari F12, and then as a user experience, if I buy another share of that, he lists it on our exchange as a secondary market platform, and somebody buys it, maybe they get an introduction to an event that Fernando would host where they start up the Ferrari and maybe take it around the track in Europe just for one lap, a virtual lap. And that lap could also be in a virtual space on Sebastien's world. So you can create the racetrack on Sebastien's world, use the power and performance and the design characteristics of Ferrari F12 to actually go around the track with Sebastien, and have people perhaps pay for that or redeem some in-game services from Sebastien that would allow them to participate in Fernando's world, to actually own a fractional share in a Ferrari going forward. There's lots of things to deal with that. In Sebastien's world, it leads into my world a little bit then sometimes. Fernando is definitely in my world, but in Sebastien's world, it's very much about how do you monetize, or how do you create that value. And if you want to make revenue, true revenue, that you can go and go buy a Starbucks or go buy dinner for your family, how do you actually make that compliant with the regulations that are there today? All the work I've put in, and now I want $50. How do I get $50? Whether is it 50 Tether? Is it 50 fiat that has to come to my UBS bank account? Those are the discussions where we, as the technology company, with the kind of boring part, which is the off-ramp as well, need to be aware of. So all the value being created in Fernando's world and inside in Sebastien's world, sometimes when it has to touch the material world, it needs to come out via exchanges, and exchanges need compliance. I know it's an awful word to mix in a blockchain conversation, but so that's the reality, unfortunately, from our point of view. But using blockchain for this really gives us and all the owners of Fernando's shares in Sebastien's games and their experience, and people watching TV, whether it's virtual football, real football, it all blends in together into this virtual space that we are. I mean, what's the difference? Is it a virtual experience watching TV versus playing a game? They're quite similar in a lot of respects. So I can react to a game, or I can react to a football game. It's the same. I'm just reacting on my smartphone. My smartphone, I'm buying more of that. Or I've just seen the latest review of the next Ferrari SF90, and then Fernando comes out and says, we're going to buy a Ferrari SF90, and I'm like, oh, I want to buy into that one. That's an amazing, 1,000 horsepower car. I want to buy a piece of that. I think it's going to be great. So it's all about the story and engagement, and actually using blockchain to prove ownership. That's really what it's all about. If somebody buys something from Fernando, it's theirs forever, and there's no middleman to take it away.
What I love about it is that this used to be the future, right? And now, now is really the moment. We really are in, that what I think is an inflection point. It's not the inflection point, or necessarily the big inflection point, but it's a inflection point where we're moving from theory into reality, where Fernando just tokenized his first car and is distributing out the asset now to wallets, where Sebastien in the last couple of months got to list the SAN token, which is his currency, on Binance, which the largest exchange globally, and so and where Ray, I know, is making investments daily in these platforms, and where the borderline between entertainment and finance and virtual and real are being blurred into a ball, where you're no longer worrying about that anymore. It's kind of like, now, is it interesting? Do I want to turn on the screen of my phone, and what do I want to look at, right? So I think that's really, So Ray, talk to us about, right now, what's the cool thing being shown to you, right? What's the bend in reality that we're about to go through that you're trying to be ahead of the curve to look at?
Yeah, so there's no doubt that asset tokenization has been in the discussions for pretty much over at least 2 years, and now it's beginning to happen. Talking to regulators, I learned that we were one of the first players in the space. So it's very early, but it's happening, and it will become soon ubiquitous. I believe the question here is how to foster adoption. So we follow a very pragmatic approach, deal by deal, in which every token represents a single asset, and this comes across enthusiasts and early adopters as a really straightforward offer. If I get a token, it's linked to that car. But clearly, as institutional investors and so on come to their place, the question is, what about a basket token that gets exposure to the whole collection, and what about other asset classes? So this is, of course, a topic we're exploring. And from a regulatory setup, we've done that homework. It's pretty much comparable, but of course, it requires expertise and capabilities building and so on. So this is one thing, and then the second thing is to bridge that gap towards the token holder, how to provide that value. And here, we're looking into VR, AR, in which you will be able to have a room with the collection of your assets, maybe activate them, activate the Ferrari that you just bought because you have to hold the token, have a nice painting and so on. So and obviously, this opens the Pandora box. Certainly, you have maybe a leadership board, who owns how much, and people are competing, or how does your asset looks like compared to the other one. So there's lots of opportunities out there. And last but not least, interoperability. How do we bring this Ferrari token to Sandbox? How do we bring it to Animoca, to other 3D worlds out there, and how do you make that experience smoothless? So these are topics that we are just exploring, understanding, and researching to see where this is heading and what kind of opportunities are there.
And Sebastien, I've known you for a while, back from Pixel days, and watched the metamorphosis of the company, and also your dream, from 5 years ago of how decentralization was moved back and how you stuck with it, which I'm so proud of you. So talk to me about how your user base has changed and how your relationship with your user has changed.
Well, it's a real transformation. As you know, we've been preaching, and we've been for almost 8 years. Our motto, our main slogan has been turning players into makers. And I believe we're really now fully achieving this thanks on the Sandbox. We have an amazing community, over 3,000 unique landholder. And I'll get back after to the importance of land in this new sandbox and the value of land now. We have over 30,000 people following us on different channels, Discord, Telegram, very actively engaging with us. More than 30,000 users with a wallet already registered on our platform and enjoying the benefit of blockchain, participating to our roadmap. And all of that, close to 200,000 sand holders also as well among our metrics. And what's amazing with our community is because they own NFT, because they own like asset or land or sand token, they became stakeholders in the ecosystem of Sandbox. All their action, all their involvement contributes to the value of the Sandbox, growing the Sandbox ecosystem, growing the Sandbox metaverse. And one of the very concrete example of that is essentially how the Sandbox metaverse have seen its value multiplied by 5. So we've originally designed the map, which contained 464 lands in total and forever, every one parcel being a unique NFT, to be worth $5 million a year ago when we launched it. Then we've completed several achievements. We raised funds with major investors. We launched Sand. We've made major partnership with IPs and brand. We've released several of our products in alpha and beta with active users playing with them. And today, the value of this metaverse on secondary market is close to $25 million. So that's the average price of a land and the demand for it. So that's quite interesting to see like all the users who were the first to participate and bring value to our ecosystem, in our economy, in our community, have also benefited from this growth. And it's really important, we think, to be pioneers in a space, and the value of our land is showing that.
Interesting. And Fernando, who's in your world? Who was your investors? You know, and who are your customers?
Yeah, so we see two, let's say, targeted segments. On the one hand, you have early aspirational investors who might allocate, some wealth for the purpose of diversifying their portfolio. We're looking at 25,000 francs per asset tickets, and that's kind of the sweet spot we notice. And then you have then the retail, enthusiasts who want to test the technology and really acquire, let's say, smaller tickets. It's very early to really capture, let's say, to what extent retail is excited, but when you put a picture on media, you get thousands of likes. So of course, once these tokens are listed at a stock exchange, and the community realize they can buy it starting from $1, we will see how that behaves and how that develops the price of the underlying asset. But so far, the project focused really on the proof of concept, making sure that tokenization happen and capturing those 25K tickets. And we see strong demand also from rather asset managers and private banks who are looking to explore this digital asset offering, starting, of course, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, very classical cryptocurrencies. But as asset-backed tokens gain momentum, and speaking here about real estate and of course collectibles, then I could imagine that it's also of interest of banks of private banks to offer this to their clients. So these are all discussions going on here in Switzerland. You probably heard there's over 850 companies in the crypto valley. So of course there's a few early players that are pretty much spearheading these actions.
And Brian, you're in a unique position because you both create the underlying technology, and now you're trying to move into the actual product itself and the markets. So how do you see it changing over the last year or two, and what do you think is changing over the next 2 years?
The last year or two certainly has been engagement on the regulatory side, and much more important, the market manipulators, if you like, are all being weeded out. All the kind of bad old days of the ICOs are over. A lot more regulation coming in, and regulation might be a nasty word, but it also brings with it some investor protection. So those are the things that regulators are looking for, so that when somebody creates value on Sebastian's platform, then they can actually exit that value for real money, actually safe in the knowledge that this isn't a money laundering exercise and so on. So what we're seeing is, after building all this tech, doing all the research, bringing it to the fore, we're now getting NFL athletes approaching us to list on our platform. So we do the initial fundraise with them and we tokenize them. We actually create fractional ownership of the assets. Now, do we say to the regulator that we tokenize them? Maybe not. We tell the regulator this is a common stock and it still has a representation on the blockchain. So we do it in parallel at the moment. So we show the regulator the traditional methodology, which is there too, because you've got to comply. But we also have this complete tokenization economy, effectively, of a player's future income stream. And you can buy and sell and trade, and you can trade a future income stream against a Ferrari. You can trade it against some value of the land on the sandbox. You can trade all these things. That's where our technology comes. And that's where I think this is all going to go in the end, is that once I can prove ownership of something and that I can actually trade it with somebody else legitimately, because it's mine and the other party has something I want to take in exchange, and we can create an order book from that, then I think after we built the product, now we're seeing people wanting to come and list on the product and actually tokenize the assets. ERC20 and the basic tokenization of assets is so trivial, so simple, but it's so elegant. And that's what really makes a difference for us, in that it's not this massive technology hurdle to actually create a digital security and to trade that digital security. It's getting liquidity into that digital security is really where we're all at today. That's our background, James, as you know. We create digital stock exchanges. So when we create these, and they're non-custodial, so when we create them, we have the tech. We're now looking for people to be engaged. And yes, we can all get engaged with Tesla, and Elon Musk might tweet something, and we all get into that on Robinhood and so on. But we're much more interested in people, trending something on Twitter or Insta and something, and people actually coming in and buying that asset, whether it's the K-pop IPO that went off yesterday for $600 million, or whether it's a new album from an unknown artist in San Francisco that wants to come out and raise some money to produce that album and distribute that album commercially. That's what our blockchain technology allows us to do. And now really it's about the fact that we've overcome all the regulatory hurdles to allow those offerings to occur on the primary side, on the first issuance, all the way through to the secondary trading, legitimate legal secondary trading with a regulated enterprise in North America and throughout the rest of the world. America is to be treated separately, James, as you know, because the SEC are rather special.
Because we're so great. That
was what I was missing, James. Apologize. Yeah.
So Ray Zhang, talk to me about, you're sitting there in a unique seat where people are, where all roads lead back to capital to try and make things happen. And so what do you see that's around the corner? What's the next thing that we're going to start to see in the market that's in a year from now that's going to be obvious the way that we are today?
Yeah. So first, sorry, just now my mic has a problem. It's a drop off. So
I think you cut out again.
I cannot hear.
What about now?
Yes.
You cannot hear me?
Yeah.
Now.
Okay. Yeah. I will focus on the game side. So, you're still hearing me, right?
Yes.
Just to make sure. Yeah. So, right now, I think in the past, a majority of the blockchain games are coming from the crypto blockchain. What is how they wanna? Oh.
You're okay now, but there's something that's happening.
Some words are missing. Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
Don't touch whatever you're touching. Don't touch that red button. And
I didn't touch anything. Yeah. So the majority of the blockchain games that developed by blockchain developers, not gamers. So I think that's the part that we're missing. We need more and more developers from the game industry who understand how to build the experience and actually making blockchain crypto as additional feature for the blockchain game, so that the gamers is not treating the games as a entertainment anymore. It can become a real life. Just James just mentioned the second life. You can starting to do a job inside the game, right? That's kind of a amazing experience. You can play the game as a job and you earn money and because of its crypto and blockchain, you own the things that earn, and you can trade it on outside of the game. Then actually you can earn to live for your life, right, inside of the game. That's how exciting that could be. And so I think the boundary of the game with a virtual life, it's basically it just will disappear. I think what Sebastien doing, that's the first step. Okay. I think we need to have more and more the gaming developers to join into this sector. That's what I.
Sebastien, talk about how that division between real life and virtual life, how is that changing, and how are you experiencing that on Sandbox, and how do you encourage it? Sebastien?
Right. Yeah. I'm here. Like, it's still a bit early to talk about how we are experiencing it in Sandbox, as like Sandbox is not fully yet launched. Like, we've released some of the component, like the 3D editor, the marketplace, the land pre-sale, the game maker, but not yet the play part. So the play part is coming more toward the end of the year. In December, we'll open the first beta where players can create an avatar and start socializing, interacting together, and go play games. So that will be that turning point moment where we'll really see moving from just pure creator and landowners to more like players and the mainstream gamers. And we've been preparing for that. Like, we've been preparing for that by bringing mainstream IPs like Atari, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Shaun the Sheep, Care Bears, and many more, not only family-friendly IPs, but more like entertainment, Hollywood movie likes, etc. IPs are coming alongside, and also bringing investors in the space like Square Enix Japan, the major video game company that's been following us on our seed round, as an example. But there's many other games companies, traditional games companies that have been there for over 20 years in the space that are following Sandbox really closely, and that's all I can say for now.
Okay. I'll tell you when you're older.
Yeah.
And Fernando, how has the development of your platform been what you expected, and in what ways is it what your vision? What was your vision, and in what ways has the interacting with your audience and with your users changed the activities on the site and changed your vision?
Yeah, I mean, clearly we come from a, let's say, very sophisticated, tech-savvy background. So, of course, handling keys and transferring coins was kind of something we did frequently. But the moment you get closer to the customer, the moment you realize that this is clearly an area that has lots of opportunities to improve when it comes to user interface and usability and how friendly the process are. So clearly our setup has evolved based on this customer feedback. And I think this is a very strong point that has gotten a lot of criticism, that blockchain and just in general digital assets are rather complex to handle. And by having this kind of easy onboarding, creation of a digital wallet automatically, and so on, we believe we have, in a way, eased it somehow. And just to give you some background for customers who are not so familiar with crypto, we might make it, let's say, we might remind the folks, if you want to unlock the transferability of your token, you need to make sure you save this code, this secret password, and so on. So things like that have definitely come across as a learning in this journey. And then the second one is really the regulatory side. I mean, from the onset, we went screening different jurisdictions and really understanding how the whole ecosystem was evolving. And we believe here Switzerland, together with Liechtenstein, are pretty much one of the leaders so far in the space. We live in the blockchain act already. And this, in a way, protects both the founders, but also the investors, especially when it comes to bigger investment tickets. This becomes increasingly more crucial. Yeah, so those areas have been definitely a very rewarding learning.
And Brian, from your perspective, other than dealing with the regulatory bear on a continual basis, what is it that's different than you expected, and what do you think is going to happen over the next 12 months that's going to be interesting to the guy that owns an iPhone that likes that wants to see different flashing lights on their in their face?
I think bringing the entertainment into it, making sure that the customer isn't the product. That this is really what I think, Sebastien in particular is very much focused on, and that if I'm creating value, it's my value. It doesn't go to the platform owners, it doesn't go to the Facebooks or whoever else it might be behind the scenes. So it for us, what we've learned from this is that smartphone, James, is really what people are after. Talking about desktop solutions and algo trading and baskets, no one gives a damn. Really what people want is simplicity and engagement. And so for us, I think what we're really learning is that people want their favorite athletes to do a shout out, to blow them a kiss, to tell them how the game went, to do something special for them, for that person. An NFT type solution where you can say, look, thanks James for being my #1 fan this week and tweeting all about me or something, and we can effectively use blockchain to prove that this tweet came from this player at this time towards James Haft, and it becomes an NFT that you own, just like you would own an autograph. So there's a lot of nice things that we can bring into this, where on the entertainment side I'm engaging with my sport or my team or my band or my music, and I'm actually contributing to that ecosystem and making it more vibrant. And there's nothing better than somebody who buys a share in one of Fernando's cars. I guarantee the next thing he's going to do is tell 12 of his friends he owns a share in a Ferrari F12. Of course he's going to tell all his friends that's what he has. So that's what these things are really all about. The social side of all of this, gaming, securities ownership in the entertainment space and the gaming space, I think is really important. Virtual gaming versus physical cars. It isn't that different on a smartphone, James. It's still entertainment on my handset on my way to work, sitting on the subway or whatever it might be.
Fernando, by the way, your next customer for tokenization should be Brian, and he'll expand on that later.
We won't go into that just yet, James.
Ray Zhang, talk to me about how you interact with this technology differently now than you did last year, and what changes you see to your personal experience, not business, but like how you actually interact with your phone right now.
So what I see the difference, from from the investment point of view, what I see different is last year, probably still people are building technology, building all the infrastructures. I think, but generally, since probably early this year, people are starting to talk about use cases, user experiences, what the users want from this ecosystem, how to attract the users, get into this ecosystem. I think that's the generally I think phase of this blockchain and crypto market is growing. And for personal experience, I don't know, it's a I'm not really, personally really doing anything by myself. Of course, I do some trading. I do testing different type of blockchain games that shared with me, just to see what happens inside of it. Yeah, and one thing you experience the changes probably is in probably the last year or even earlier than last year. All the majority of things they can do is basically web-based. You have to use browser, use MetaMask to do it. Now, I think a lot of the applications actually enable you to work on a mobile and native application is through the wallet that or any wallet that you're using. That's probably the experience change. And one thing recently I saw, I mentioned this before a little bit earlier. So in the NFT meet DeFi, so the Philippine market, I got see the news that local resident who lose their job because of the COVID-19, and they need to earn money. And what they do, they play blockchain games. They play a game, earn the cryptos, sell it on the market, and actually they're earning twice of their minimum wages. So that's actually one thing that you can see how potentially that it actually affect people's life. Yeah,
it's one of the best first use case for play to earn. I mean, it came as a necessity, but now it's turning into it's just fun. And they have more fun earning a living through that method. And this game in Philippines, essentially Axie Infinity, has been driving the change, but more are coming. NBA Top Shot, Golden Chain, Sandbox, etc. So it's really exciting, this new economic model that's going to transform gaming and how players can perceive games.
You guys have questions for each other?
No, but I have one more comments on this thing. So I think in this blockchain world, especially the blockchain games world, I think a lot of people are talking about play to earn. You can earn money, you can get things from this, you can own things here. But I think you're missing the other side. If everyone wants to earn things from here, who is paying it? So I think get back to the point I made earlier. You have to enable the experience that make people really think they would like to spend money instead of this ecosystem to enjoy, to get some experience. Then there will be people who want to enjoy it. There will be people who want to earn things from it. Then you have the balance. That's not the comments I want to make.
But Ray, for me on that side, just from the regulatory side, for me to want to pay a currency, a fiat currency, using Apple Pay on my smartphone, for argument's sake, or on Android, I now need to be banked. You end up excluding billions of people from being able to bring value in here. So what else can we create value with? I suppose an interesting example would be the basic attention token from the Brave browser, in that you're consuming ads, I suppose, is one way of generating some revenue. Where Sebastian's world, he would have to, as you're creating something on one of his pieces of land, a Coca-Cola sign would pop up that you have to, leave on your land for a week in order to earn some revenue. Those are things that can be done, and Coca-Cola can submit $50,000 into the game via Sebastian's service, and then I can earn that $50,000. But again, I'm back to the off-ramp situation. How do I spend it? It's very difficult today for any of us, especially if you in economies where the average daily wage is $5 a day. It's kind of hard to get an off-ramp there. Maybe M-Pesa or something like that in Kenya, but there aren't that many digital platforms where we can actually spend our money and benefit our families and so on. So I think we do need an element, unfortunately, of regulation and fiat on-ramp and off-ramp. Maybe money exchanging type services, like a model like Western Union, where you can walk into a place, bring up your phone from Sebastien and say, I earned this from having Coca-Cola on my land, and engage with the likes of Ripple and MoneyGram and so on to make those things happen. But I agree, the money has to be earned in the game, but it has to be real money, because you got to feed your family.
I totally agree. I think that doesn't have to be people want to pay to play, but also I just mentioned there's other ways that you can source the cash flows into the ecosystem. I think that also works. Another solution that you mentioned regarding on-ramp, off-ramp, of course, I think that's a pain point, which is why we also invest in some on-ramp, off-ramp projects. Another way of solving that, of course, won't be easy, is enable every business to accept a crypto payment. You don't need to off-ramp change it back to fiat. Just allow them to pay using whatever assets they have. Then
I think this transformation is already happening in some countries, like in South Korea, typically. Like I think there's like more than 7 or 8 million shops almost accepting payments in crypto, and even users don't even know that behind that blockchain is involved. So some countries are leading the change for sure. Some other are yet due to various conditions not able to provide that, but finding new ways as well. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, on the blockchain side, those things, Sebastien, on that, you need a consensus-driven blockchain to trust it. Unfortunately, a consensus-driven blockchain generally needs mining and rewarding, compared to something like Ripple and so on. So that comes the tricky part. As we all know, Ethereum fees are now gone kind of ballistic. So there's no way you're going to buy a Starbucks with a Bitcoin or a piece of a Bitcoin today, or indeed Ether today. But those other blockchains where you may go experiment with a new one, well, there's no distribution, so consensus is very much in the hands of 4 guys. So it's a real trade-off that we all have a balance to make here as really early commercial adopters. I would see this panel as being quite a commercial panel, as to how to bring the decentralized value of non-custodial assets into this ecosystem by maintaining truth with decentralization. That they're very, very conflicting situations. Hopefully Ethereum 2.0 will bring a lot more to that and lower costs dramatically, and perhaps side chains and so on that others may choose to trust or otherwise. So it's just my take on it, really. I think it's quite an interesting evolution to earn in the game, where you're no longer the product. You can actually make your own money. But as Ray was saying, on ramp, off ramp is quite a system. It's quite difficult.
There was one thing I wanted to share, and I'm actually very excited about it. What we found out is that there were just several hundreds of asset tokenization platforms popping up. So, which in a way is a good signal. I mean, clearly, consolidation will come and so on. But what we believe when we focus in collectibles, what we learned was that the greatest problem was really the sourcing of collectibles, because they're rare by definition. They're hard to find. Even if you win the lottery, you cannot just build this collection. It takes years. So what we actually end up, how we actually end up solving this problem is by creating an incentive in which you engage with the platform to earn. And the way it works is we think of it as a 2.0 affiliate program. Of course, there's more tech behind it. There's a DAO and so on. But in very plain English, the idea here is that the community itself engages actively into sourcing these assets, whether it's a friend, an uncle, or just someone that they just stumble upon. There's hundreds of photo scouters taking pictures on the weekend and so on. So whether that opportunistic meeting enables the sourcing of the asset to our platform, this curator, we call him, he participates together with the community, and therefore if the asset goes through the, let's say, selection criteria, gets tokenized and successfully placed, this amazing thing happened. The person who recommended the asset, he gets tokens. He gets rights to a portion of tokens available for, let's say, the curators. And this is more powerful than just plain cash. Clearly, he can, cash out these tokens and so on for cash in the secondary market. But the beauty about it is that even if you don't have the capital to splash into a collection of supercars, you can actually start building it by contributing. And I mentioned the car sourcing is one. Another one is writing a high quality blog, just bringing more customers into our platform. And people are going really, really nuts. They love this concept. The DAO that we launched in the background today is the top 6 by number of members. So I feel this play to earn can have several meanings. Bottom line, the user is really contributing to the community somehow.
So I love that. So we got to close up, unfortunately. I'd love to talk to you guys all night. We could go back to Davos and have more drinks. So,
I'm in Davos. I'm the only one in Davos.
Thank you all for being here. I think that really what we talked about is the maker and taker situation where we're really enabling people to participate in different roles on a platform where the outcome is not predetermined by the people producing the platform. So it's really the future for all of us. And the reason it's so entertaining is because it's so uncertain, and that uncertainty actually becomes the activity which we're willing to be attracted to, because that's what's interesting to us, is learning whether we're right and participating in the outcome. I think we need to log off now, guys. Do I have a minute left? No. Oh, quickly, just everyone say the coolest thing that they have on their phone that they love using that's related to blockchain. Fernando, one thing. What?
Go ahead.
The coolest thing on your phone that has blockchain related to it that you use. Is there anything?
You caught me in the corner. I would say I'm following right now the NFT topic.
Okay. That's it. Stop. Ryan?
Tracelocker.com, a cannabis attestation platform.
Self-serving.
It's not. It's great. I love cannabis.
Sebastien, besides Sandbox, just so we don't all turn into Brian.
Well, tough question. Binance for now is the funniest thing for me.
I actually think trading also. And Ray, what's the coolest thing?
The CeFi applications.
What's that?
The CeFi applications like Celsius or another smaller one, Valve. So that's the one pretty easy to use and convenient.
And actually, I think that it's the combination of DeFi and virtual reality. The snow crash world coming, where we're all going to be avatars that have, and an avatar is a wallet that has an algorithm attached to it. And where I can actually enact my will, and express my will, because the ultimate expression of my freedom of speech is how I spend my money. And if I'm able to actually have an avatar that can go out there with a digital wallet and exercise my will out there, it becomes very interesting for me to be able to, to expand my life and to expand my network and my experience. Mm-hmm. So thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this. This is fantastic. And I look forward to having a drink with each of you soon, in person.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Lovely day.